To your knowledge, has there ever been recovered UAP or UFO materials?
What I can say is what I've been allowed to say, which is yes. Up until recently, I wasn't even allowed to say that.
When did that change?
When that book got reviewed. Up until that point, I had signed documentation from the government saying I will never discuss that, ever.
What happens if you did?
Oh, jail. Oh, yeah. That's why that book, I had to go through the process, because what I wrote in that book, I am allowed to talk about. I can't go beyond that, but at least I can talk about that. And in the book, I talk about, yes, that the government is in possession of material, exotic material that doesn't look like it's made by us.
Has there ever been anyone sent to jail because they've spoken about this subject matter?
Worse. And that story has yet to be told. Yes, there are people who have had faced extreme disciplinary actions and potentially worse.
The death penalty?
I'm not going to elaborate right now because there's some things happening to try to. This is why Congress is working hard for whistleblower protections, because we want people to feel safe to come out and have a conversation. And right now they don't feel overly safe. They've seen some of the tactics and techniques that were applied to try to keep people quiet in the past. Let me say this in general terms. People say, oh, well, the government would never kill anybody to protect a secret. Try going to Area 51 and look at the signs on that chain link fence where it says lethal force authorized. You cross that fence and they can kill you dead. Okay? So the government can, under certain extreme cases, under certain extreme situations and conditions, they can do whatever they need to do to protect national security, and they will.
Which department is that?
I cannot go into that conversation, unfortunately.
Because people think of it as maybe the CIA or something, but
I can't elaborate, unfortunately.
You know, because I know very little about American governmental departments and such, but obviously most of the world knows about the like presidential assassinations and things like that. So, and I've spoken to a few CIA agents and stuff like that on my podcast before, but I've never really understood, frankly, who would be making such an order and how those things don't leak. You know.
Well, you know. Good question. Look, we've done it in the past, in other situations, some pretty recently. I'll give you a case in point, and this is not, attacking anybody. We have used drones to lethally kill people, Americans, an American citizen specifically, and the person's child, without due process.
In the U.S.?
Not in the U.S. He was a U.S. citizen.
Oh.
He was suspected of being a terrorist, and there's some other things there. I'm not going to go in there. But we as American citizens we are afforded something called due process under the law of peace. And meaning you get your day in court no matter what. And there have been Americans where that hasn't been the case. They didn't get a day in court. Someone made the decision to liquidate them. There are examples of that happening. There's another one with Rosenberg's, those who were accused of selling the atomic secrets to the Russians, actually giving it to them. And if you know a little bit about what happened with his wife, turns out that she was innocent.
What happened to his wife?
They hung her and him for espionage. But because of the information that we had at the time, was so sensitive, we'd have to reveal a capability. So unfortunately, it looks like maybe we have done something that we maybe shouldn't have done. I wasn't around for that, so I can't tell you definitively what happened. I can only tell you what my understanding of it is. I could absolutely be wrong, and I really hope I am. But it turns out that there are extreme examples where we will take drastic measures to protect national security.
So in writing this book and in talking about the subjects, you understand that there's some people that don't want you talking about these subjects.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you also understand that punishment for talking about these subjects can range from jail or worse.
Yep.
So are you not scared?
I didn't say that. I didn't say I wasn't scared. I mean, I'm taking huge risks. My life has been threatened many times, and it's very concerning for me. It's a reason why I live in Wyoming and I'm heavily armed and have now 6 German Shepherds. Yeah, I'm very cautious and careful, but I'm also understanding. I also know the left and right limits of the law, and I'm not going to break the law under any circumstances. This book isn't a leak. I'm authorized to talk about that book because I went through the proper processes of getting it reviewed, whether they like it or not. But yes, I am absolutely worried. This is why I'm very careful when I say things, because I don't want to. I'll walk up to the line. I will not step over the line. I will not violate my security oath and compromise national security for disclosure. And I don't think I have to. I think the proof is in the pudding. The fact that it's been 7 years and we've come this far in the conversation, and I haven't gone to jail, and I'm still here to have the conversation, I think is indicative of the fact that there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. I understand people want disclosure and they want it now, but I've told people before there's a difference between doing things right and doing things right now. They're different, and we only get one chance to do this right. And so hopefully we can have this conversation, this collective conversation, in a way where we don't have to be disruptive. No one has to be threatened. No one has to go to jail. No one has to lose their jobs or anything like that.
You mentioned presidents earlier on. Do presidents of the United States know about UFOs?
Some do, some do not. Unfortunately, there's a mindset by some people that think that politicians and presidents are temporary hires. They're here today, gone in 4 years. So why brief them up on something, especially if they have no military or intelligence background? It's a risk. So you know what? Don't brief them.
Which presidents do you think were aware of UFOs and these kinds of programs?
Sure. Well, we know for sure there were several. For sure, for example, Carter was. But then
how do you know?
Clinton, well, because Carter was briefed. I know somebody who actually worked with Carter to get information on this topic. I won't say the person's name. The person's still alive, so I don't have permission to talk about that. But we know that for a fact, and there's records of it. But there's other presidents like Bill Clinton who wasn't briefed but wanted to be briefed, right? And so, and again, this is the crux of the problem. Who's making the decision on what president gets briefed and what doesn't? That's nonsense. President George Bush Sr. was briefed. When he was also the director of the CIA, so he was very well aware of this topic. But then there's other presidents that weren't. And so this is highlighting the very problem that I have. Who's making the decision to choose who gets briefed and who doesn't?
What about Obama and Trump?
I can't answer for them. Obama has recently stated for the record that these UAP are a national security issue, not a threat, but an issue, that there's something there, that these are real, whatever they are, whatever it is. President Trump recently, former President Trump said a week and a half ago, for the record, when asked, that he would be willing to release the UFO files and that he wanted to do it in the past, but he faced fierce resistance. Now think about that statement for a minute. Who the hell is giving him resistance to releasing UFO files when you're the president, right? That is a very significant statement. That is what needs to be fixed. If the president himself can't get, or herself can't get, a briefing, who in the hell has the authority to make that decision? Nobody.
What is that fierce resistance that Trump's talking about?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Trump.
What do you think it is?
I think there is a huge amount of influence by the military-industrial complex, and it is an enormous business. Always has been. It's huge. It is probably the world's largest business globally.
And why wouldn't the military-industrial complex want those files to be released?
Well, because then they have to admit that they're part of the programs. Some of these folks, have been a lot of their successes is being able to work super secret programs for the U.S. government, and maybe there's technology that they don't want released. Maybe there's capabilities that we had that we don't want to tell our adversaries. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, which are understand. Some of them are actually legitimate. I can understand. I don't agree with, but I can understand.
How much do you think the average person on the street knows about what goes on in the Pentagon and